Johnny.
Tim.
Zane Schweitzer. 5-time Masters of the Ocean, 2-time Red Bull Ultimate Waterman, big wave guy. How cool is this?
It's pretty awesome. Thanks, Zane, for showing up. I'm happy that I met you, and you're a neighbor up the hill.
Yeah.
And you didn't give me the stink eye too much in the lineup, and we got to know each other, right? So you know, I really appreciate you coming down. Talk about foiling, talk about jaws, talk about all this stuff. So it's a pleasure to have you here.
Yeah, I mean, I gotta tell you, I've been coming to Maui for years, and being from the mainland, and you look at these waves at Jaws, and just, that was 2 weeks ago, the biggest waves that Jaws has seen for 10 years. I mean, unbelievable. It blows my mind that anybody would even think about going into those waves. What goes through your head when you're going into this? I mean, you were, the picture we saw of a windsurfer, you were on a windsurfer, and the top of the mast was not even a sixth the size of the wave. That was insane. Like, I thought the wind would block the sail and everything. Like, how do you get down there, and what's going through your head?
Man, I mean, well, first of all, we spent a lot of time preparing for that situation, right? We don't just throw ourselves out into it. And so I think that's the biggest thing in anything, right? You know, success in any category is about how much preparation you put into that moment of opportunity. Yeah. You know, and because when that moment of opportunity presents itself, you better be ready to jump through that window.
Yeah, Zane, how often does that happen on Maui? You know, I've been out here, you see the big swells coming, you know, maybe a week, 2 weeks in advance. But it doesn't happen often. It happens, right?
No,
but
I mean,
it depends on the season.
It's been often this season.
Yeah,
this
I know.
season.
You've been busy.
Before 2021 even started, almost had a dozen sessions. I want to say 10 sessions by January 2021 out at Pe'ahi.
Wow.
Which, I mean, there's years that go by where we have like 2 or 3 opportunities, maybe even no opportunities to ride out there.
Yeah, yeah.
And so
if you don't get that many opportunities, how do you prepare?
Oh, and in everything you do, it's all about intention, right? It's all about intention. Whether you're going out for a paddle or a canoe or a swim, or even just the foil surf out at toilet bowls, I'm always thinking of how I could better my abilities to be comfortable out in this environment, whether it's reading the water, whether it's focusing on controlling my heart rate through the basic maneuvers in one foot waves, whether it's, you know, going out for an exercise and putting that mental, you know, thought process into the reason why you're doing it.
Yeah.
And for me, you know, like when I'm out cross training on any craft, you know, or especially in the gym, you know, or doing something that's not as fun of training, I'm thinking about like why. And I'm visualizing dropping into big waves, and you know, like how this extra strength or this extra bit of knowledge reading the water or controlling my breath or panic control under weird situations, you know, all these things, you know, it's hard to practice in that moment. It's hard to get yourself in that moment and practice for it. That's why you have to be prepared for it in everything. I mean, even in breath work, you could do at home in bed. You know, there's a lot of benefit in spending just 10 minutes every day intentionally focusing on your breath.
Like, what's an example of when you talk about breath work, and you know, this is something, if you're going to get in waves and you're going to get held down for a little bit, you have to stay calm, but you need the lung capacity.
Yeah.
Like, what's an example of a breath work drill that you do?
Well, one of the biggest ones you could do is jump on a bicycle or go for a run, or do any type of cardio activity, and check how quickly you go from being able to comfortably talk while doing the exercise to like, I was out this morning trying to eat pancakes. And you know, if you can't talk while doing the exercise, then your control of the way you're burning your oxygen is not quite efficient as it should be. And so I like to think about not necessarily going 110% at beating myself up or at strength, or I've had a lot of success in stand-up paddle racing. It's probably one of the least fun activities to train for. I have to get myself out. Waves might be firing, and I'll go paddle flat water for 2 hours before going surfing. But putting myself in that situation and knowing that I'm not just doing this to become stronger and to be faster, but I'm doing this to better control my energy consumption. How can I become more efficient and more effective on the water?
Oh,
so
interesting.
So I'm not quite thinking about, I don't want to beat myself and huff and puff and hit the beach crying. No, I want to hit that beach focusing, that knowing that I focused 110% on technique, 110% on efficiency. And I might have only done 50% power and 50% strength.
Right.
And that's
like
one of the
controlled power.
Yes, and it's one of the greatest lessons I've learned from Danny Ching. Danny Ching's one of a great mentor, a great friend of mine, and someone I looked up to and continue to look up to in many areas of the ocean, especially when it comes to just sheer comfort on the ocean. I mean, this guy could be paddling 30 miles on a canoe, on a stand-up paddleboard, and just be so calm and cool, and just be sitting there like he's just enjoying a paddle, and his stroke to glide ratio is better than almost anyone.
Wow.
And what's cool about him is he's doing it with such ease. It looks like he's just cruising, but his efficiency, his technique is just so polished.
Yeah.
No one could touch it.
Yeah.
And that's, I think, what allows him to just be, his little extra percentage of efficiency is what gives that huge draw for a long race over a long period of time. And I think that's huge in big wave surfing, because there's a big wave coming, you're gonna be, all of a sudden you see the horizon from the first wave, and then all of a sudden you get a glimpse of what's next, and if it's a clean up set, whoo, I don't care who you are.
Right.
But if you could control your heart rate and get to where you gotta go, and even take that pounding while keeping your heart controlled, that's a true waterman. Because I'm telling you, most people will get the set, and as soon as they see that, and then if they make it, they're like, oh my God, thank God I didn't get pounded by that wave, because I'm like huffing and puffing, I didn't even get pounded. But there's other times where
Zane, that happens to most of us common mortals on waves that are head high.
Right.
Instead of like building high.
And so you got to be able to work yourself up to that. Don't be afraid to push yourself to those points, because it could be 2 feet or it could be 20 feet, right? The sensation that I feel nervous at 30 to 50 feet might be a lot different than the sensation you guys might start to feel nervous at.
Yeah.
But it's the same type of sensation.
Right.
It's that same, our bodies have these instinctive reactions that we have to face or not. And a lot of the time we resort to that fight or that flight, they call it. But a lot of the time we have a choice to flow as well. And that's, as the ocean teaches you, there's a time to surrender and there's a time to fight.
Yeah.
And I think in moments where you only have a few seconds to before you're taken out, either it's a 2-foot wave or a 20-foot wave, one of the things I like to do is before my emotions get to me, I push them out. And I usually do it with a laugh or like some sort of a war scream, or like, whoo, you ready, boys? And just turn a negative to a positive. And it's amazing how much that helps. And I've done that naturally, I think, to cheer up my friends, like looking at someone that I coach. Like I take out juniors to Pe'ahi a lot.
Oh, no kidding.
A lot of the kids that I teach, and they grow up making a goal, I want to ride Pe'ahi one day. I got kids this year, probably 3 or 4 kids under the age of 17 that I've taken out for their first times at Pe'ahi.
It's unbelievable.
And when they look over at me and we're about to get pounded by a wave, I want them to look over and see, how is this guy so calm and cool? And I'm looking over, I'm like, you ready? Choo! and then all of a sudden they look and like, they go from looking scared to like almost smiling.
Hey, this is gonna be all right.
Like, okay.
So what is, you know, when you're out there at PI and you're looking at a wave that's just gonna pound you, like, so you get that mental, are you doing like an extra deep breath? Like,
one of the biggest the first lesson I ever learned for big wave surfing was from Dave Kalama, and it was probably one of the lessons that has stuck for so long, and it's so simple: don't fall.
don't fall off your board.
Don't fall. You don't fall, you're not gonna get pounded. You know, and so you push yourself accordingly. If you want to be a shoulder soldier, hell, just eventually you're gonna work your way to the peak. You know, and so take your time, working into it, right? But I think for me on January 6th, I believe it was, one of our first big swells of the year came in, and Kai Lenny, Nathan Florence, Eli Olson, and I got caught just inside like the set of the day. And like, it was like a 25 foot Hawaiian wave, like solid 40-foot face.
Yeah.
And you know, I was the furthest in, and then it was Kai, and then Nathan and Eli, I want to say. And I remember the moment, I was paddling for the first wave. Paddling. Kai was actually paddling for the first wave too. We were both trying to get into it. We both missed it. We turned around, and I remember looking at Kai, and he looks at me, and we're like, you know, because it was like, as soon as we turned, it was like, oh shit. And try and picture this. You don't see a clear picture of what's happening. When you're paddling for a wave and you miss it, you have a 50-foot wall of mist and water blowing for a solid 5 to 8 seconds where you can't see shit. You're wiping your eyes, you're blind, you can't. You're just like, everyone's paddling out, and you're just like, oh, there must be something coming. And you're just trying to make your way out. And I remember thinking, I'm on my stand-up paddle board that day, and I remember immediately just knowing right away the situation's serious. You know, this is a serious situation. This is what I've been preparing for.
Yeah.
And because almost subconsciously, that first reaction I had to it was just head down, focus on breath, and get ready to take a deep dive. That was the only thing on my mind. You know, it wasn't like, oh shit.
Yeah.
No, it was no, okay, I've been preparing for this. And it was almost like so instinctual. I didn't even have a choice to choose what I'm thinking about. It was just,
so at this point, you miss that first wave, you're caught inside, and you're gonna get mowed. Is that?
And literally it broke right in front of me. I mean, a 40-foot face wave breaking right in front of me. And the whole time I remember just almost being blank. You know, like in just survival mode almost.
Right.
And right before the wave hit me, I stayed calm and cool, took a deep breath out, deep breath in, and dove down. And I tried to dive as deep as I could.
And so you're diving and are you swimming?
Holding my paddle the whole time, because the paddle is like your lifeline when you're getting dragged. You could use it as a tool to get back to the surface.
Okay.
And so every foot you dive down is a massive amount of pressure you're relieving off a wipeout. Right. Once you get down deep enough, especially if you time it with that downward push, you know, you could have a good, and I remember getting drilled, and I had my paddle in my hand, and at a certain point, when the wave stopped rallying me and I felt it just dragging me, I slid my hand, my top hand, bottom hand on the top, and started sliding my bottom hand down, applying force downward on the paddle. And as I'm being pulled this way and being with my foot up, I'm focusing on having my head down and pulling on my back. Now, Brian Kailana taught me that tip in big wave surfing, and it's something that also was one of those simple little tips that stuck with me forever. Feet up, head down. Because as you're getting pulled through the water, just like a foil, when your nose is up, which way is your foil pointing? It's allowing water to get on the underside of the foil.
Oh, yeah.
And so if you're getting pulled by your leash and you're trying to get head up and your foot leash is down, what's that pressure doing? That's nose down on your foil. Your board's tombstoning and you're getting dragged down. Feet up, head down.
Wow.
And if you have a paddle, put that paddle down, apply force. You could just get shot to the surface as you're getting pulled in. And so I used that technique for the first one, then the second one, And then the third one, I was like all the way on the inside already.
Right.
And at this point, it was like, I thought it was over. The worst was gone. I didn't even pull my suit. I relied on my paddle to be able to stay confident and stay calm.
Yeah.
And then at the end, that third wave, all the way on the inside of the reef, I got taken down way deeper than the first one. And I got down to the point where I was like, holy this isn't letting me up. Okay, time to pull. I'm getting sucked down. My vest is full and I'm still getting sucked down.
Oh my gosh.
And now I'm like, okay, nothing I could do. Just stay calm, stay cool. And one of those moments too where it's like you don't have a choice. You know you have to just relax. And I probably wouldn't have been, I might have been panicking if I know I haven't prepared as much. But I just relaxed. All of a sudden I started to feel like almost feel good. You know, that light. And then that's when you know like, okay, chin down. So you might start to go unconscious. You know, once you start to feel pretty good under there, you know, chin down, hold it in. So I'm like holding the chin down just in case I go unconscious. And then finally, it starts letting me up. I hit the surface and like you're in so much foam. When you hit the surface on the inside, you don't take a breath in initially.
It's all just
because
aerated,
you're like under
right?
this
like,
foam this deep. You got to get a breath at the right time to make sure you're not taking in that bubbly foamy water, or else it's like the most stinging breath.
Right.
And then you're coughing as you, that's a bad combination. But anyway, after that one, I was on the inside and you know, cool. And that was a great way to start off the winter for me, because it was probably about the worst situation you want to you don't want to be in.
Yeah.
Every surfer is like, you know, the classic term you hear from the classic North Shore surf film, when the wave breaks here, don't be there. You know, so you got to stay calm, you got to stay cool, and don't be afraid to push yourself to the edge of uncomfort. And you could do that any day, right? Even next to your bed before you go to sleep. Push yourself to the edge of uncomfort, whether it's doing a Wim Hof breathing session or whether it's doing a few extra push-ups, you know, whatever it is.
One of the things that we talked about the other night that I think would be pretty interesting is the relationship of the jet ski driver to the person being towed in.
Yeah.
So when you're paddling, I assume you're not being towed in.
Yep.
But you've also done, you know, towing on surfboard, towing foil, you know, I assume. And is it usually Matty or
totally? Matty's
Matty, Zane's
majority.
brother.
My brother's Matty. Yeah, he's an amazing surfer. Definitely shines in big waves.
Right.
But he's also really passionate about running water safety, and he's also passionate about filming. And so, you know, I'm really grateful to have this relationship with my brother, because a lot of the time, you know, we'll have fun together on the fun days. Right. And then when it gets serious, you know.
What's a fun day?
A fun day out at Peahi for my brother and I would be those days where it's like, you know, 15 to 20 foot Hawaiian. Right. And, you know, it really doesn't break for real until it's like 12 to 15 foot Hawaiian. You know, and then once it's 15 to 20 foot, that's still almost borderline small jaws. Right. And I'm talking 15 to 20 foot Hawaiian. Right?
Yeah.
15 foot face wouldn't even be anything to ride out there. It would be like, maybe you could get towed in with your foil and get some rollers, but that's not surfing jaws. That's gummies.
Right, right.
Yeah.
And so I think a small day at Peahi would be, you know, a day where you're, you know, you could feel comfortable. There's not as much of a crowd. There's also not as much water safety, which is usually kind of a scary thing. I mean, this year we've had probably a handful of days where it's literally just us.
Wow.
Like where my brother, a few of our juniors we've been coaching, Harrison and Lucas and Ty Simpson Kane, we'd go out just, and any day it's like, oh, it might be breaking, we're out there.
Right.
Just to get familiar, get comfortable, to train, you know, and to really dial in landmarks, you know. And days where it's 15 to 18 foot Hawaiian is almost, it could be more fun, but it's almost more dangerous because we're pushing ourselves more.
Right.
We maybe get a little cocky at times, right?
Yeah.
And there's also probably not as much people, not as much water safety. And so it's really important then to to keep an eye on buddy system, you know. And but the days where it does get serious, you know, my brother probably is having more fun on the jet ski or filming. And so and this is only a new journey for us, really. I mean, we've tow surfed over the years, you know. My first time getting into a wave at Jaws was tow surfing and windsurfing, but pretty much been consumed with paddling in. I mean, like, my whole life over the last 10, 12 years.
Now, stand-up paddling or prone paddling?
Prone paddle and stand-up paddling to the waves. And I don't know, it was just kind of like that thing. I was like the young kid getting into the scene, and you got all these guys like Yuri and Marcio and Sean Lopez, they're already paddling into Jaws. And this is like some of the first guys ever paddling into Jaws.
Yeah,
and now,
yeah.
and you know, now it's like, well, you're a kook if you're gonna tow surf into Jaws. You know, like, you want to be man, you got paddled into Jaws. Like, okay, so that's how I got into it. You know, it was like, and I really fell in love with riding Jaws, paddling in, and I avoided every chance to touch a jet ski, even for safety.
Oh yeah.
You know, I would go out there knowing that I'm on my own. I drove there with my brother, with my team. But if we don't have a jet ski, we didn't hire a jet ski, we're not paying money for a safety team. We don't have a boat out there with a lunchbox and water for us. No, we're driving 2 hours, starting at 3 in the morning, slipping our ass down a freaking sketchy cliff to get there. If we make it past the rocks and shore break with all of our fins, you know, then we're off to a good start. Once we get out there, it's fun. But it's a responsibility, and so I always would take myself and know that my actions, I'm on my own today, and I don't want to put someone else's water safety team at risk. And so I would go to my uncles at that time, you know, and I'm really grateful to call guys like Victor Lopez and Dave Kalama and Uncle Milton, and, you know, even Curtis and Colomona. They're more bradas, but I mean, like, I respect them so much. And when I was going out, I would go up to them and I would have eye contact with them. Even if I didn't exchange words, they know them. You know, I'm like, hey, I'm here. Can you keep an eye on me? You know, or I'll go straight up to them if there's a chance to, give my hand. Hey, uncle, what's up? You know, I'm out on my own. Me and my brother. I know you're out here with, you know, Kai or Ian or whoever you're out here with, but can you keep an eye on us? Oh, hey, no worries. Of course we'll keep an eye on you. You know, but still, I'm not waving. I'm not waving for help. I'm not even trying to pull my vest. You know, your vest is your last resort. When you're out there without a safety team, that's your lifeline. Your leash is your lifeline. Your paddle is your lifeline. You know, and so there's many times where I'm coming up and immediately I'm as soon as I hit the surface, I'm going like this, because every water safety guy in the water is looking like, are they okay? And so when universal signal for I'm okay. You see guys coming from corner, they see me doing that, they're turning out of the whitewash. Trust me, a jet ski driver is putting their self and their expensive tool at risk. When you're driving in foam, you're trying to do a pickup, it's dangerous. And so I'm not like going out there expecting guys are gonna get after me. And even now that my brother and I have our own jet ski, it's a little different. Now kind of I could expect that my brother's gonna be there. But still, I can't rely on my brother to, you know, on my confidence. I have to still approach it humbly, as I did from my foundation.
All that other stuff could give you false confidence if you rely on it, right?
And there's way too much false confidence out at Pe'ahi. Over the years, you got guys with Kodak courage. You got guys with budgets, water safety courage. You know, you got guys with documentary film courage. There's a very few group of guys up there who do it because they love it, and they do it because they want to be out there. You know, and I'm really grateful for being a part of this community, because it really is the most special community, the big wave surfing team crews. You know, you go out there and we all have each other's back.
Well,
you know, and we're all really quiet and trying to absorb everything around us and not so much be blabbing, you know.
Well, it's amazing, because I think for most people, you know, you see the Instagram shots and the movies and all that, and you know, it gives a lot of people courage in just their daily life, seeing what you guys are doing, right? Because it's like inspirational, you know. It's like these guys are putting themselves in harm's way with risk, but they're doing it competently and safely and all that. So it's huge, it's inspiring. But yeah, it sounds like it's a culmination of work every day, putting the time in, building up to it.
I mean, even you don't just throw yourself out there with a water safety team. Like you go out and you run your jet ski. You go through every possible situation of maneuvering the ski. You know, you practice your water safety pickups. You practice those situations where you have to eject and where you have to maybe, you know, get back to the sea, and you better hope you have a spare key. You know, because
attached to the ski.
You don't want to have a situation go bad when you're in the impact zone. And you better hope you know what to do when something goes back, because you better believe something will go wrong. It'll happen. Every single time you're out there with the jet ski in big waves, especially towing someone, something is going, some sort of hurdle or challenge is going to happen. Yeah. And you got to be prepared to accomplish the tasks required to continue safely.
Yeah. So this last, when was it, a couple weeks ago, that big swell, I think it was a Saturday or something. What's
Saturday and Sunday, January 16th and 17th.
Highlights for you out there on that day?
It was an interesting sensation going about, you know, for me, because it was a big swell, but it was hyped up for me mentally to be a lot bigger. You know, because like even like the uncles, like Uncle Victor Lopez and, you know, Dave Kalama and Brett Lickle, they're like saying this one's gonna be the real Pe'ahi. You ready, Zane? Like, you never seen it like this. And so hearing that and knowing what I've been through out there, I'm like, you know, I'm really approaching it differently. You know, the days leading up to it, I was trying to really keep my stress low. I wasn't training like physically, I was preparing mentally. You know, and my biggest game plan throughout that day was, number one, it was our first official time running safety with my brother on our jet ski. We just got a new jet ski, and it literally arrived just before this swell. We broke in that jet ski like literally at the lineup at Pe'ahi. Not our first 15 hours, we did the appropriate first 15 hours, but I mean, like, we literally had under 20 hours out at the lineup at Pe'ahi. And so that was a big thing too, is I knew that we needed to be extra cautious and prepared with this jet ski team and with my brother, you know. And so I approached this not as risky, not as, I don't want to say cocky, but as committed. Yes, I was committed to catch the biggest wave of my life, 100%. But I just kept hearing Uncle Dave Kalama's advice to me when I was like 8-10 years old at Kahana Beach, you know, or Kanaha Beach. Don't fall. Don't fall. And so especially for the windsurf, for the tow surf, it's a little more achievable. Paddling in, it's almost ridiculous. It's almost a ridiculous tip, don't fall. Because but towing and windsurfing in, once you get into the wave, it's your line you choose. It's how you choose to ride that line. And so you could go about it with a little bit more of a plan of attack. And so I went about that day, and I told my brother this that morning. I'm like, Maddie, I'm gonna kick out of every wave into the channel. I'm gonna ride out of every wave back into the channel, and you're gonna be right there to pick me up. And I was just visualizing that, you know, and not because I was scared or nervous, but because I respect this place so much. And I respect all the OGs that showed up to ride that wave again after 20 years of not riding it. Because we had 10, 15 years to paddle. Jet skis weren't allowed. Literally, like at a time it's jet skis. So sorry, paddle time. We're paddling. It's our priority. Yeah. You know, This was the first swell where it's like, okay, this is a tow surf swell. People showed up, they didn't want to paddle in. They were
really?
only prepared to tow.
Right.
You know, and so that was one thing I'm probably most proud of that day, to answer your question 10 minutes later. Is, you know, I started off the day paddling in. And I was the first surfer or stand-up paddler out on the water. And I caught a few waves paddling in, and then it got freaking bigger and bigger and bigger. And then all of a sudden we were towing.
Yeah.
And then I was windsurfing, you know, and it was just like, I caught the biggest waves of my life, windsurfing, tow surfing, and stand-up paddling that day.
So it was good day at the office.
It was just how I manifested it to be. You know, the days leading up to it, I was doing my journaling, doing my yoga, meditation, just everything, just thinking about catching my biggest wave and kicking out into the channel. You know, and once again, not because I'm scared to fall, but because this is the first time my brothers, now my brother's responsible for me.
Right.
If I put myself in a shitty situation, my brother puts himself in a shitty situation.
Yeah.
Not only that, I knew it was going to be crowded. If you fall in the lineup out there when there's 20 jet skis, it's almost more dangerous to get hit by a ski in the lineup than it is to wipe out on the wave. And so that's a whole nother thing I was thinking, was like, I don't want to get in anyone's way by making a mistake.
Yeah.
You know, and there was people out there who, the locals, who really know the deal, who have gone through the ropes. There was guys who showed up that day with no water safety team. Not even like, they just threw themselves out there and they expected that someone was going to save them. And don't even have the experience to ride out there, let alone.
That's crazy. The how did your gear hold up? Did it all come back in one piece?
Everything came back in one piece. I had my only hiccup with gear that day was my fins. I had to switch fins, you know, through all my crafts. You know, I could have had a few extra set of fins so that I wasn't always switching gear. Yeah. And then my other thing I would have liked to do was tow surf more. I maybe started windsurfing a little too soon. You know, the wind came on really strong early. And so immediately I was excited to windsurf. I was like, okay, it's time to windsurf. But the towing was still good. Even though it was cranking like 30 knots and literally chops like 4 feet tall down the face of a 60-foot wave.
Gosh.
But like, it was still totally rideable tow surfing. And I think I might have had more of an opportunity to build experience and to grow and to have fun, maybe towing. But at the same time, to be able to build experience in each craft and really be able to make a huge step forward in all those sports was unique for me. And you know, to finish it off, we actually ran out of gas on our jet ski. And so we didn't really want to go in. That was the third thing that we learned from, is you always bring extra gas, because even these new jet skis don't last the whole day out there. I mean, we're out there 7, 8 a.m. You know, and that thing doesn't turn off the whole time you're out there.
Right.
And so we ran out of gas and had to go in at about 3:30, and it was still, could have been out there. I was excited to stay out there, you know.
Man.
But you know, at the same time, my brother was ready to go in, and that's something I have to accept. If your partner is ready to go in, you're not going to push them, because then you start making stupid mistakes, you know. And let alone our jet ski wasn't ready to go. So, you know, we made the choice to head back early, and the whole time I'm thinking, shit, I want to just. But I didn't want to rub it in for my brother, you know. He had to get back to his wife and kids, and you know, I didn't have any. I just want to stay out there.
When you're windsurfing, like, where do you take off? Where do you put in? To get out at Jaws, and then when you come down the wave, because I've windsurfed some waves, and you know, that are maybe mast high, and I follow them and I chase them, and I just get to the point where I feel comfortable, and then I'm gonna shoot down. That's a whole different category of chasing down a wave, managing some bit of wind to put yourself in the right position to go screaming down the face. A 60-foot face.
The big challenge is managing the apparent wind. If you take off too late, meaning not like planing into the rolling swell at the bottom of the rolling swell, then you're most likely just gonna get pushed out the back. And so the apparent wind, once the wave starts to stand up, you want to be at the bottom of that swell. If you're trying to take off at the top as you're planing in, as the steeper it gets, the more that wind is just straight up and down. And so that's the biggest challenge, is taking off far enough upwind that you could shoot it downwind as fast as you can, but also timing the swell and your plane to be able to be planing with full speed at the bottom of the wave before that apparent lift catches you. Right?
Yeah.
And so then once you're in, you know, it's just about managing that speed. There's no speed that comes close to it. I mean, tow surfing, you could get the speed that you have, but I mean, I feel like windsurfing, the amount of chop you have to manage at that speed is insane. I mean, I had one wave where I was going so freaking fast down the line, and then all of a sudden I get a little high. It starts, I'm like, oh shit, it's lifting me up, lifting me up, lifting me up. All of a sudden it gets to the point where I'm not even just going fast, but I'm like starting to float and lift. Doing literally like a 40-foot jump at like laterally, not high, but like literally just hitting a chop, going like 6 feet in the air, just trying to keep holding, and just like a rock throw, just like boom, 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 boom.
Oh my god!
And then you
the wall's still there.
And then finally the wave starts to take shape, and then it smooths out. Once the wave takes shape, it smooths out a little bit. But then you just want to make sure you still have power in your sail, because if you get too close to the barrel or too close to the pocket, then the wind could change. Not only can you lose power in your sail, but a barrel that big literally breathes. It'll pull in, and then it'll and so if you're close to that barrel, the wind could actually pull you back, and then when it spits, just boom,
shoot you on out.
Just annihilate.
Oh yeah.
We can talk about this all night.
Yeah.
But we're losing light. So Zane, thank you so much. I know for me and John, to be able to sit here and ask questions about people who've slayed dragons, have been down these massive waves, has been unbelievable. Thank you so much. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please subscribe to the YouTube channel. If you come here to Maui and you want to learn a water sport, send us a note. We're going to connect you with Zane and his crew, and make sure you have a great, safe time, enjoyable time in the water. Or
we could get you on a boat to be front row watching waves at Pe'ahi. If you don't want to surf it, it's an experience you'll never forget. Hearing and feeling those waves. Actually, I got to get you guys out there. One of these next swells.
For sure. I'm in. That sounds great. Thank you so much.
You better watch out, because I'm gonna be like, hey, you ready? Let's go.
Thank you so much, Sam. Really appreciate it. John, thank you too. Johnny, any short last words?
Have a nice evening. Be excellent to one another. Stay stoked and do what you love.
Yeah, you guys. See you on the water.
All right.